I call the member for Bowman.
Deputy Speaker, it's a particularly good day to be debating this motion from the government on a day when, of course, the Courier Mail, the bannerhead for Brisbane, ran the headlines "Time to Stop the Waste." And with that, it actually focused my mind very much as well on why I'm even here this week. Those in my electorate who are finding it really, really tough, with 63% increases, people who live in South East Queensland would know, a 63% increase in the cost of power and water, would know that one of the great challenges facing every family is just basically making ends meet. So it's with that context that we have to be very cautious about the way we approach motions like this, lest we appear to not be focusing on things that are actually concerning those for whom we represent. Many of those have told me back in my electorate of the mums who have to make tough choices about whether they can still afford to put their kids through swimming lessons, or we see people standing around paying at Woolworths and saying that loaves of bread are $6 for two. Can I give you $3 and would you give me one of those loaves? Because we know that there are 80,000 people turning up to Salvo services around the country this year who have never been before. So when we notice that Australia is struggling as it is with cost of living and with training our attention and the way we spend government money on things that truly matter, we have to be very careful, very, very, very careful not to be too celebratory about some websites. Now, there is one or two benefits to some of these websites, which I would not deny, and the My School website should never be forgotten. Was cultivated through years of hard government work, thwarted at every step by the unions and, of course, by the then Labor opposition. When we moved to the My Child website, of course, and to a lesser extent the My Hospital website, the only practical benefit for ordinary people, and the 4% of Australians who have looked at the My Child website, or the slightly greater number that have looked at My Hospital, is that I can see a fuel dial sort of graphic of just how long the waits are compared to state averages. The practical reality is that people have very little choice about what public health services they access. In most cases, they access the public service to which their general practitioner refers. So this idea that one can look at what's happening in other states, regions and even far corners of the country to see find a slightly shorter waiting list for varicose veins is of intellectual fascination for you and I in this room, but of practical benefit almost nil to an ordinary person who in reality will be guided by their general practitioner where to have this operation done. And I wouldn't want to spend too much time on individual policy errors of this government, but I was sitting in the back of a taxi in Boston being driven by a Haitian taxi driver. He heard my accent and, like many of these taxi drivers, said, "You're Australian." And he said, "You have that female Prime Minister." And I said, "That's right." He said, and she said before the election, no carbon tax. And straight after it, she's talking about the one. And she has signed her political obituary. And I just sat there stunned that this is the period we are all working in as members of this place to be remembered by that extraordinary element of duplicity. And that's why we have to be very, very careful that we are focusing not on the next policy initiative that will follow Fuel Watch or Petrol Watch or the set-top box program. I don't even need to go into details on pink bats. These simple phrases have become emblematic of extraordinary excess and waste. The simple notion that largesse determined by a government is better than simply writing a cheque, as the Courier Mail pointed out today, writing a cheque for families for $560 and saying, "Would you like the cheque or would you like the website?" I'll take the cheque. But you didn't give them a chance on the other side of this chamber. That decision was made on their behalf, how to spend their money. And so we have these dilemmas of 260 childcare centres that mums genuinely wanted but will never be built.
Order. The time allotted for this debate has expired.